This is AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV SuperFriends. For April 11th, 2025, it's the best sounding, not really, podcast in higher ed. This is the AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, episode number 107. I'm going to stop right here. Apologies at the outset for those of you listening to the live stream and the recording later. I broke a whole bunch of stuff.
Apologies.
And things are all
break
weird.
Character. Just go.
Levels are going to be strange. You're going to hear compression. There's two other people doing stuff that I normally do myself, so I'm hands up. I'm not doing any of this. So it is going to be a very
it's going to be
unusual show today. So
should be fine.
Yeah. With that said, here we go. Broadcasting live from coast to coast and everywhere in between, transmitting across time zones faster than crappy hotel Wi-Fi, from the back of the rack to the front of the house. And I'm not doing any button pushing, switch flipping, or turning knobs today. Weird. I'm Chris Dector, and you're back. You're tuned in for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure. Good Lord, this
AI's doing that for us.
Oh man, yeah, we could use.
Oh my goodness!
You call me Al.
Yeah. All right.
Mixing.
Now cue up our elevator music here.
Yeah, you ready for it? Here we go.
Doing that. Go for it. So let's say hello to today's panel of AV SuperFriends. I'm joined by a Director of Unified Platform Enablement from Kansas City. Say hello to Jamie Reinhardt. This is where they'll be clapping, but I don't have any of that running. Also joined by a Manager of Transformational Signal Delivery from Corvallis, Oregon, Mark Kolowazinski.
I don't even know how to make these cables line up. But somewhere they're gonna meet, and we're gonna get something going on, and it's gonna be transformational. I promise.
Also joined by our Vice President of Immersive Alignment from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Mr. Justin Rexing.
So this is real. So I ensure that our business actions and communication and culture, this is important, and culture align with our core values and principles here at AVSF.
That is the most management thing I've ever heard you say.
Core principles alignment.
That's like the most professional I've been on this show.
It might be.
And finally, very special guest, our Emeritus Executive Vice President of Legacy System Wisdom and Institutional Strategy, joining us from the beautiful Gulf Coast of Florida, Mr. Joe Cornwall.
Greetings, salutations, wonderful to be here. What can I say? Thank you for not forgetting about me.
I was commenting earlier, like the last half an hour has been just an absolute mess, and I commented to Joe, I apologize, but I know he loves it because this is what Joe does. So seeing us trying to fight levels and get things lined up in software, it's AV. It's
51 minutes, 51.
It can only be more fun if you can find a way to get some vacuum tubes in there. Do that, and stuff gets really interesting.
It's happening on Jamie's side, I'm sure.
It's already happening.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on in the background, but clearly tariffs are taking a toll on our production capabilities here. But we're trying.
And I did not click update. That's the thing. Usually that's what it is.
Overhead on.
Yes, they're taking off the top of our bandwidth and everything. But here we are. We are still committed to bringing you guys a show. So you're welcome.
Speaking of bandwidth, there went Chris's.
Don't worry about it. Okay.
Looks fine on my end.
Is it? Well,
I don't know what's happening. All right. So on today's show, we're going to discuss a surprising anniversary of a connector that we all love, as well as a new connector with even more capabilities. We're also going to talk about, ironically, how audio quality is critical to a successful AV technology experience.
Why we've been spending an hour trying to figure out this.
Yes.
Wild. Anyway,
but first, let's do some quick housekeeping. So first of all, if you're listening to this as recorded MP3, we do stream live on Fridays at about 3:30 Eastern or 12:30 Pacific, or whenever I get everything working normally.
Once
you can join us for that live on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, all those fun places. If you can't join us live, we still want you to connect with us on the socials. Please follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Blue Sky, all those fun places, and keep up with our latest updates and news. Please spread the word, share this podcast with your friends, colleagues, enemies, perfect strangers. If you could be in line at the grocery store and hold someone's cart back and not give it back to them until you make them subscribe to this, that would be great.
Take something out of their cart and say, you want this back, you subscribe to this first.
But make sure they pay for it first. Make sure they pay for it.
Take it.
No, in the line. Justin, are you paying stuff before you get in line?
No, in the line. I'm paying for it in the line.
You don't take things out of other people's carts because then they want you to pay for it.
Yeah.
I have a whole
Also,
cart you can take.
if you do want to support this nonsense and help us fix whatever I just broke today, please consider donations. Your contributions help to keep bringing you the news that you love.
And for those of you who donated, thank you. Right?
Yes, we do get regular donations, so thank you for that. One of these days, I will start calling people out on that because we do want to thank you by name. But thank you for keeping us.
Calling you out for donating. Put them on blast.
You know what I mean. It's a whole mess today. And we do want to hear from you, so please reach out on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube with ideas for shows, or if you want to yell at us about how wrong we are or why we sound so trash today, that's, that we can do that there. So hit us up, mailbag at AVSuperFriends.com.
Whatever you did, Larry, you messed this up.
Oh, yeah. Larry's gone.
You just noticed that?
Yeah,
this
is
gig with a hard rock band.
This is garbage. What are we doing?
All right. So with all that said, you've waited for it all week. All right, hit me with that news jingle.
Yeah. Hey, that sounds just right. That's pretty good.
So with all our shenanigans, by the way,
yes,
we didn't decide which news story we're covering. Are we covering the new connector or the 2110 stuff?
Both. Let's get them both in. We'll give them extra credit because it sounds so shitty. Let's do it. We can get double headed.
The news really is that NAB happened.
NAB happened.
So yes, NAB was this last week.
Where's it going on right now?
I think it ended yesterday or today or sometime. And at NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, they come out with all sorts of widgetry, AV adjacent stuff. It's part of AV. It's larger AV, but it's production world.
A more
AV.
Expensive segment of AV.
Well, with some extent. Yes. But the thing you wanted to talk about was that one company that keeps showing up as a disruptor because they're not as expensive and they're getting those technologies out to people who might otherwise not experience them. So again, and this makes people bristle when we say it, but again, kudos to the folks at Blackmagic Designs for getting their stuff out there and just pushing those technologies. All right, Mark.
The whole line of the new 2110 adapter and that whole series of fun widgetry. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. The converters. And I really feel like they're doing a real good job resetting the market for like AV over IP and like the broadcast center, because if you didn't know, most manufacturers would lead you to believe that it's really difficult and expensive to bring this stuff to market. But here's Blackmagic saying, well, hold my fucking beer. Look at this little thing. I'm going to bring it to you and it's going to change the way they're thinking. And even if it's not the best whiz bang thing in the world, I like the way that they're just pushing it out there to get better awareness. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's about momentum, and the momentum and the way that they're bringing them to the market and just making really cost effective. And people are going to say, oh, but it's disposable. I don't care. I really don't care. Any tool that gets out there that gives people the opportunity to play with the technology and get their minds around AV over IP and all the pieces, then how to convert the shit back. Kudos, because I think that's what the market needs. It needs cost-effective ways for people to get their minds around this shit.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I just talked with somebody yesterday maybe. One of our friends, I'm not going to name his name, but we were talking about the Blackmagic stuff, and he was rattling off everything. And I was like, you think it's going to work? He's like, probably, but for that price, I'm worth, it's worth gambling on and figuring stuff out because you can learn. Yeah.
This is what I did, 6-7 years ago with NDI, right? Mm-hmm. Bird Dog came out around this time and said, look, I got a $500 NDI encoder decoder with an HDMI port on it. And I deployed entire room systems, AV over IP, $500, and I used dozens of those Bird Dog minis, and they're still running. They require a few more reboots than we really want, but they're $500 a pop. At the time, NVX was running over $1,000, OmniStream was running over $1,000, and I just wanted it involved. Now, Blackmagic
you can get in the game. Get in the game. Yeah, that's the thing, right?
And the SMPTE 2110. I mean, that is in the broadcast industry. That's what's next.
They're rolling it out quick.
They're good.
And being SMPTE, and then they had the AES 67/70// but they have AES on the backside of that.
If you get your mind around that stuff, you are set up for success. If you can get your shit right for 2110 and AES 67, you're there. You have the bloody fingers for being on the cutting edge, and kudos.
And so I love it that the Blackmagic's throwing these things out there for $550 a box, $600 a box. I'm like, man, that's worth the gamble. And yes, Blackmagic, their stuff is great for the 2 or 3 years that it works, and it's commodity hardware, but it works pretty well. For the right price point, you just have to know what you're buying. You know what you're purchasing when you purchase it. And at some point in 2 or 3 years, we were past whatever they're selling today anyway. So move on to the next thing. But I love these announcements from them.
I think it's great. I think the fact that they're basically bringing affordable hardware to the market with the ability to take software development, wedge it in there, and you know what? Here it is. And if it's not perfect, we're okay with it. But it's going to be more than good enough for a lot of people out there. It's going to get traction. It's going to lift. It's a tide, right? The rising tide will lift all boats. And I feel like the more awareness we have around workflows, AV over IP capabilities, and just being able to have a more intelligent conversation about what it takes to do this in a modern day, anything that gives us the ability to have that conversation and further it is moving in the right direction. So,
and also something positive about this, if they're pushing all this stuff out and they're leading the market in devices that support SMPTE 2110, that's going to make other people jump in too and create competition and make better products. So this is all good.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you're kind of pissed off with the new Adobe pricing, the DaVinci nonlinear editor is not bad. I like using it too. So while you're in the website, go ahead and hit download. It's free.
Yeah. Download that. And if you do broadcast a replay, check out that little replay blocks they have too. That's a clever little thing too, man. I mean, that is pushing the balance and is a big disruptor. People who do replay, like the old Grass Valley stuff, and so this little thing and the price that it's at is awesome.
Yeah, just you kind of have to get past your diva syndrome of that. It's always got to be a Grass Valley. It's always got to be Avid. It's always got to be Sony, right? You got to get over that a little bit and give it a shot.
New.
Give it a shot.
I love the chimes, Joe. It's really just keeping us honest.
We were talking about that earlier. I feel like we should have yoga while we're on here today.
No one wants to see that.
In our next segment, after the break, we'll have yoga with Joe.
Do you want to mention another thing while we're here? I mean, we're here. We drove this far. Yeah.
This next story or this next announcement, I suppose, will tie directly into our next segment as well. But a couple of days ago, we have a new cable connection standard called GPMI coming out, which is like, Joe, what do you think? This like HDMI plus DisplayPort on steroids? It's huge.
It's interesting. Let's put it that way. So the whole idea behind general purpose multimedia interface, right, which is supposedly going to be a challenge to HDMI, high definition multimedia interface, is that it's setting the table for 8K video, as if anybody in their right freaking mind needed 8K video. Like, give me the use case where this really, really chalks up, other than very specific, large projection mapped projects, which don't require this technology at all. So, but the idea behind it is it's supposed to be bidirectional, 96 gigabits per second or some nonsense like this.
Yep.
On the other hand,
I'll max that out, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing, right? So I'm heavily involved right now in looking at emerging technologies that are going to impact the AV industry. And in fact, I'm doing that course for VIXA at Infocom 25 this year in Orlando. And one of the things that I'm really seeing is this, and that is the impact of artificial intelligence, but it's not in a way I think that we've been talking about. And here's why I think GPMI is actually kind of an interesting harbinger of that. When we start talking about using cameras that are capable of 16-bit color depth at 4K with 120 hertz frame rates or whatever, that raw data rate is insane. What do you have to do? You need edge compute. The future, I think, of a lot of AV is in edge compute, and connecting to edge compute where the AI will comb the data out of the raw signal, send it to the mothership for whatever processing is required. This is going to require short link length, extreme high bandwidth capability, and it's going to be incumbent on the AV community because it's going to be based on cameras. So
I got a question about this whole thing. So I've been reading over some specs, and let's just... I'm a pretty simple guy here. So I saw somewhere that it supported 480 watts. Does that mean that I don't have to call my electrician anymore?
All right.
So if you caught Jensen Huang's his whole keynote around the NVIDIA thing, one of the big announcements they were talking about were really in the supercomputing and the HPC processing. And when you're setting up data centers, the amount of throughput rack to rack to rack, this falls right in line with that. We're talking about Moore's law and moving, and it's all energy. And we have to move a lot of data really fast. So how are we going to move all this stuff through pipes? And I think this is just kind of that same philosophy. And we're kind of interpreting it through the AV lens. But at the end of the day, this is raw data movement. And we need big data to move. And we obviously need new connectors to do it. It's not going to be a Cat5. It's not going to be an HDMI. So we need something.
You say that we need new connectors, and yet GPMI is based on, should I say it now? USB Type-C. Right? USB Type-C, the 10th anniversary of USB Type-C. One of the things we want to talk about. Yes, it is cooler than I thought it was going to be, and I thought it was going to be pretty damn cool.
But can it power my display, Joe?
All right,
I need
let
to
me answer that question with a different question. Can I?
Okay.
All right. There's another emerging technology that we haven't talked about. And I don't even know if you guys, if this caught your attention yet. Have you ever heard of anything called a fault managed power system, or a category 4 power, class 4 power? This is the first time the National Electrical Code in 46 years has changed the standard. And they said in October of 2024, hey, we got this new thing. So if I tell you, Justin, that you can lay out a composite cable with a multi-mode fiber and a couple of small pieces of copper, and you can lay it out for a kilometer, and at the end of that kilometer, you can have a 10 gig ONT and 2 kilowatts of power. Is that interesting?
Let's do it.
That is, because I'm just trying to power my display in a room and not
this old thing he's been running, this little plasma he's trying to get off the ground. Yeah.
I'm just tired of calling electricians to move one outlet somewhere in a renovation.
Right.
You know?
Then we have that answer. That answer is actually available today. It's available from a number of companies, Belkin, Panduit, VoltServer, other companies that are out there. And I'll be talking about it in June. We'll have some folks there. We'll see this at InfoComm for the first time.
Let's go.
This is one of these things where it does exactly what you said. It allows you to power a number of displays and devices without calling in another trade or having to deal with, electrical inspectors who might not quite understand what's happening at a low voltage level or appreciate what's being put into particularly a temporary installation. But getting back to the GPMI and the fact that it's 480 watts, right? They're doubling what's already out there from USB Type-C with its extended power range. And I think that's a whole different thing. I think it's got a lot more to do with getting signals from one point to another and powering modules and charging devices and not necessarily powering displays, although I would think with 400 watts, you could power some flat panels.
Well, I want to power everything. I'll just use the display as an example. No outlets in my AV system at all. I just USB-C power.
Justin's entire house is just USB-C cables. So.
That's it.
Yeah,
it's running
USB-C
lightning. It's
buried under the ground, coming in through DMARC. Let's do this. Let's go.
All right. Well, so we're going to put a pin in it right there because we're going to come back and we're going to go deep into USB-C and all the crazy stuff it can do and what it doesn't do and all that fun stuff. But let's take a quick break right now. I don't even know what commercial we're running because I'm not in control of things, hands in the air. I'm not doing it's not me. I'm on Rails today. So
brand new one.
Someone click that thing and show me what we're doing. I have no idea.
Okay, let's go.
The AV SuperFriends are sponsored by Computer Comforts Incorporated. CCI has been building tech furniture for the education market since 1987. Instructor lecterns, computer lab tables, collaborative tables, and active learning clusters are just a few of the many innovative products made by CCI. Speaking of lecterns, Computer Comforts has just released Evolve. If you're looking to future-proof your classroom, Evolve is the Swiss Army knife of lecterns. Seriously, this flexible lectern does it all. Not only is Evolve sit-to-stand and ADA compliant, it's also packed with tech-friendly features. And the best part, it ships fully assembled and ready for action. Check out the 90-second video to see all the options. Visit computercomforts.com/evolve. That announcer sounds like me with more bandwidth. It's weird.
Yeah, imagine what you could sound like, Chris. That's the AI version of you. It's not the real version.
All right. So, Joe, you mentioned a few minutes ago, and this is why we wanted you to come on, because when I was just looking through news feeds and stuff, and a few weeks ago saw, holy smokes, we got like the 10 years of USB-C. We need to get Joe Cornwall here to set us straight on this stuff. So let me, couple of bits of background. So USB-C itself, although it still seems like this connector of the future, it's been around since 2012 for the spec, and the first products hit the market in spring of 2015. Well, let me rephrase. There were some out in 2014 as well, but it was mainly like USB data rates and USB like accessory style things, USB hubs and cables and whatnot. The first, let's say, source devices, there was a Chromebook and there was a MacBook very early on in early 2015 that had USB-C on it with no full-in DisplayPort alt mode, USB data, power delivery. It was doing all the things that we want to do with USB-C 10 years later, and we still struggle with at times. And there was devices out there 10 years ago doing this, and USB-C is like the thing we love to hate. We want all the capabilities. We love it on paper. We want to use it. And yet there's, I think, and correct me on this, but there were so many early devices that came out there that had wildly varying capabilities that it kind of muddied the market to the point where USB-C, it's only been like in the last 2 to 3 years when we're like, hey, there's enough devices doing it the right way, using all the capabilities of what that connection point is capable of, that we can start really talking about USB-C as a primary connection point in our AV systems.
Did everybody else hear the frustration in Chris's voice when he went through that whole thing? I heard a lot of frustration.
I love it.
Yeah.
I do, actually.
Joe.
All I can say is thank you, Apple. I mean, come on. You guys created part of the spec for the actual interface. By agreement with the USB Implementers Forum, the very first product to carry USB Type-C was a MacBook. The second product was a Google Chromebook. And then you finally decided to actually educate your Apple customers and put the stinking thing on your phone. What, last year? Gee, nice on-ramp, guys. Take your time about adopting your own, right? All right, I'm done with that rant.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm done with that rant, and I say that because I understand where they went, right? I mean, obviously people were using a Lightning connector, and they didn't want to get into the ecosystem as quickly as they did. But the reality is, when we look at USB Type-C, the rollout has been an example of why we need to educate companies on how to do marketing better. You can't just start talking about crap that something will do without knowing if it's A, going to be implemented correctly, if everybody's going to do it the same way, and B, if your own stuff is actually going to work to that standard, right? And let me get on give a little shout at Google for the same time. Welcome, guys. You've got the preeminent Pixel Android phones out there with Type-C. How about joining Samsung and giving it DP over alt mode so you can plug the stinking thing in and see an image? I mean, they're $1,200 phones. It's not that hard to get it right. And I think a lot of that goes back to marketing departments unleashed, talking about nonsense they think people want to buy without actually talking to anybody with a technical sense of how does this fit into the world that we live in.
Yeah, I think it's a really fascinating journey, right? I think even now we've seen a lot of the
journey's the right word. Yes.
Yeah, the listservs. It's been like it's now in the zeitgeist. What are you doing for your standards around USB-C? But it's still being talked about as a connector, connector. Not to me. It's USB-C is about a capability.
That's
right?
our fault. That's our
and it's
fault.
like, and right now it's like I don't care how the fuck you're taking a USB-C and converting it to an HDMI cable. I really don't care because that's not doing it correctly, right? Just having a connector making an HDMI is just called an adapter, right? And so at the end of the day, I want USB to be all the stuff or I want nothing to do with it. If it can't do all of it, it can't do any of it. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And like I'm kind of sick of people talking, how are you getting USB-C connectors for people's laptops to give you video? Pick any of the 1,000 adapters on the street, and that's how you can do it. But come back and talk to me when we're talking about data and backplane and all the other stuff I want with it. Until then, it's not even a conversation.
If I put it in, it's got a dock in front of it, and it has everything. It has, if we have webcams, if we have room audio, and we have power. If I bother to put a USB-C connector in a podium, a lectern, a conference room table, it's going to have all of it or none of it. Because when you get in that in between, like, how pissed off?
Then it's just a charger.
How pissed off do you get when you go to the table and there's a USB there and you plug it in and it ain't nothing but a charging brick, and it's even a slow one.
What if it doesn't even charge? What if it doesn't even charge?
You gave me the half-watt unit. Damn it!
Let me blow this conversation up. Did we ever put a sign on any of these things saying what it can do? First of all, as an industry, and I'm not talking about just the AV industry, I'm talking about the entire electronics industry, stop calling it USB Type-C. That's the friggin' connector. It's USB 4, okay? So if you really want to talk about capabilities, label it, this outlet is USB 4 capable, or it's not. we have to identify capabilities. Because a port can do a lot of things doesn't mean that it necessarily is doing all of them all the time. Right?
I'm with you guys. I don't put USB-C out there unless I give it everything. And we've talked about USB-C in some conference rooms in IT. This is talking with other IT folks. Like, what are you expecting this USB-C to do? Like, I need the cameras and the microphones. Yeah, right. I was like, so do you want Ethernet too? Oh, yeah, that'd be nice. You want it to charge? Well, yeah. I was like, okay, they're not. So they're almost expecting those things to happen automatically when they plug things up. So kind of going back to what Mark and Jamie was saying, yes, if I put that out there, it's going to do everything it promises. Mm-hmm. And I haven't put one out there yet. So
that's my take. If you're going to do it all. Jump all the way in. Cannonball in and make sure you're getting all of it. You'll find that you're going to have a hard time finding all the right product, but get out there and do the homework.
What I really get pissed off about right now is that even if I've got the right homework and I've got the right product, not all phones, not all tablets, not all laptops actually accept
not our problem.
All of the thing. I know, but if you're going to put it out there and you say it has everything and they plug it into their laptop special, and they're like, oh, well, it's not charging mine, or oh, I can't do that. I'm like, son of a bitch.
For the sake of this conversation,
so awesome, but it's not.
Define everything? Right? Because you guys keep saying everything.
We have at least 20 minutes. We can answer everything. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm up for that kind of challenge.
All right. Everything. Let's start with charging. When we say everything,
perfect.
Right? Nobody's giving it everything, because if you're giving it everything, then you're putting in a charger that can scale from 15 watts to 240 watts.
Yeah.
No one is doing this.
You're not going to get through UL listing. You're not going to get that thing through UL listing if you're doing that.
Well, you can you can buy the chargers. That's not the issue. And the money is just more money. I mean, that's not the issue. Print more of it. No, the other part of it is, what part of charging is universal? What part of charging is good enough for everybody who's going to plug a device in? And the reality is, it's 45 watts.
If I can keep that laptop from hovering below 5%, I'm good.
You're set. Keep it alive.
So a 45 watt charge becomes universal. And to somebody who's got a state-of-the-art whatever notebook that's going to charge at 90 or 120 or 150 watts or whatever, is it going to charge rapid? No, it's not going to, but it's going to keep it from dying while it's in use.
Correct. Support.
On your job, right? Let's talk about everything. So we can have USB 1.1, 2.0, that's one format, and that's going to be all your peripherals. USB 3.0, that's going to be your camera ingest. DP over alt mode, right? Or display link, which are the two output types. Those are all available in docking stations, right? So, okay, we can have all of that set up, and I can have Now, if what you're saying is I want everything, but wow, putting in 18 everythings at a conference table is
you're maybe going to get one. Yeah.
Oh, you get one.
I mean, well, you can do multiples, and it's getting easier, but we have to start with the idea that this was designed as a short length desktop cable, not a structured cable.
Yes.
So once you start thinking, okay, what can I do with 2 meters? Well, I can take any spot and within 2 meters put in a docking station and then break out everything that I need. And the technology to do all of the carriage of everything that I need, that's existed for a while, right? So if what we're really looking for is, can I have a USB Type-C matrix switch that does everything for everyone all the time?
That's scary.
I just like puked a little bit in your mouth when you said that. It was kind of weird. All right.
Yeah,
please tell me if you
very expensive.
Do you know something?
Was that 15,000 something? Not even dollars. What's more than dollars?
These are products that I think that we're going to see, because keep in mind we had to reach a critical mass. Let me take us to a different story. Okay, let me give you a different perspective. In 2012, 2013. I was going on about HDMI, and most organizations were still, everything was based on VGA. HDMI had already been around for 5 years and was
kind of still are over here. Just throwing that out there.
So this is the kind of thing
on the VGA empire.
Exactly, right? So we're now at the point where I don't think any of us would think of a system as being anywhere near normal if it didn't have some HDMI capability, ingest or output.
You're telling me.
And I think we have to start looking at the same way when it comes to Type-C. except we have to define where that normalcy is. And it is, where does my BYOD device fit in to the fixed assets in the space? That needs to be Type C.
I think the BYOD is the story, Joe. I think that's really the crux of this whole thing. And it's like going out and grabbing the widget that has the form factor connector on it is one thing, but to me, how does this fit into your support and service strategy? How are you actually thinking about supporting devices? What does that mean for somebody to bring their own laptop or bring their own meeting into a space and do that? Like, are you prepared for that level of shenanigans when it actually happens? Because it changes how we look at designing and supporting all of our spaces. It's no longer about the stuff anymore. Was it ever about the stuff? To me, I don't know, but to me, it's purely about the BYOD piece of it. It's not about just the installed folks.
As far as us, and this goes with any BYOD, we have our, base devices, our laptops, our DVD players. If it works with ours, we kind of can't support everybody's devices, and we just tell them tough luck. Part of it.
Wait, you can't be in here?
If somebody brings in a Chromebook to or an IBM laptop that we have no control over, and their settings are all screwed up. And their
laptop?
Yeah, you never know. You never
Just
know.
Go with it. It's still a little behind there.
Or what is it? Panasonic Toughbook or something weird.
Those still are VGA.
I don't know where to get these
They're
IBM
VGA.
laptops.
You got USB-C laying there. Like, this doesn't work. Like, I can't help.
Running Watson.
Out. Yeah, I'm not set up for this. It's not going to happen. So there's a limit to what we can support in any scenario with BYOD.
You don't want to talk to me. I'm all like room system out in that BYOD strategy. I want no cable. So I'm like backed into a corner over here. So completely different.
You're never going to do USB-C then.
I will, but I think let's get out of the conference room conversation. Let's just get out of the presentation. So if I do need to have some collaborative pieces, I'm not having any installed representation there at all. It's completely a space derived around BYOD. They're coming in there, and that's how your one connector is going to interface into the system. You're going to get your data from your peripherals. You're going to get your audio, you're going to get your video, you're going to all that stuff, and you're charging. If I can't do those things, I'm not doing it. If I'm going to use it, and I'm going to have a BYOD strategy that says this is how the room is designed to operate, then I want it to be ease of use with a single connector, and that's the path I take.
But you're not going down that road, are you, Mark?
I'm already there. I already have rooms that are doing it.
I thought you were going away from the cable.
In conference rooms.
Oh, just conference rooms. Okay.
Yes, I'm not turning my entire infrastructure to allow people to bring in their stuff. Like, if I already have a system that's hosting and I have a service that's delivered by that and it's controlled and it's well architected, why would I shift the entire layer 1, 2, and 3 to accommodate somebody's laptop? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, why not?
So,
because if their laptop was standardized, then everything would work out, right?
You can also just go to zoom.share when you're done. Like,
go to the cloud.
What are we doing? Like, exactly. Why fumble with any of this adapter and all this stuff anyway? Like, just go to the cloud. I mean, we're talking about application delivery.
But you can do that in your classrooms, though.
And you can, right? And so it's, to me, that's the narrative is simplify if you can. If you can't, don't do it.
I feel like you're trying to talk everybody out from doing USB-C.
No, I'm saying do it, but do it right.
I think that's the crux of it. Leverage capabilities appropriately. Too many. Mark, you brought it up earlier. You get these questions on listservs. Hey, how are we all doing this? And most of them are, I have a USB Type-C cable that goes this far, and then it hits an adapter, it hits a dock, it hits something else, and it can immediately converts it to everything back to the way they were doing it before. And I'm like, well, is that really leveraging the capabilities of what USB-C could be delivering in these systems? And it's really not. It's kind of cheating, because then Joe, to your point, just the connector matches the hole in my device, and now I'm happy.
Correct. I would say the bulk of people
aren't there.
The bulk of people doing it are thinking about, how do I get video through this form factor connector?
And power
That
for
is the
charging.
bulk in power for charging. And then when they say video, they're assuming the audio is with it as well. And so I think that's the God honest truth of how people are actually approaching it. And so I need a connector that allows somebody to take their new stocking stuffer widget with USB-C on it and work in my classroom. I hope there's something they can plug into. In their mind, they're just thinking about getting the video out of that device.
And
they're
usually
assuming
out.
their laptop is charging and they're getting network with it too.
It's
and all
usually
the other
out.
USB stuff.
I want to show something. That's it.
It gets more complicated if you also need to ingest video. If now we have to share cameras, because sharing peripherals on a computer, that's just not how those peripherals were ever designed to be used, right? That's not the way the USB pyramid has ever worked. And we found ways around it. We found hardware patches. But USB-C is built on, I don't know, a foundation of hardware patches, I guess, right? Like it's all been, let's make it do the things that need to happen because it's manufacturing efficiency for a manufacturer to have one port, one connector, one chip that drives it, one set of firmware that makes it go. Now I don't have to worry about matching all these connectors. And frankly, that the charging alone to me is a complete game changer when you think about it, right? So I'm bullish on that. I think one of the challenges we have with Type-C is there's two perspectives that we look at it from. The perspective of the AV professional saying, how do I accommodate this connector and all of the things that it can do, knowing that the person using it is completely unaware of what it can do, what it can't do, and what exactly their system is capable of, right? So that's one problem that we have with it. The flip side of it is, from a consumer or a user perspective, I got one port on my gizmo, and when I go home and plug it in, it does all this crap, and it does it exactly the way I want it to. Why is it so stinking hard for that to happen? Right? It works in my living room. Why is it hard for it to happen in a classroom or a conference room?
Well, there's lots of lots of questions about that in everything, not just USB, but networking, sharing, casting, all that stuff.
And
I want to go home. It
just
just
and assumptions, right? It's a lot of stuff to do with how are we educating the customer, what are their expectations, and are we listening to their desires when we're creating a system? I'm not saying Type-C is the panacea. It should be every connection, but I can't imagine a system that doesn't have Type-C in 2025. In the same way, I couldn't imagine a system that didn't have HDMI in 2012.
Don't come to our campus.
Let's go back to that 10 years ago thing.
Yeah.
So you see this 10 years ago. This has been an evolution, and you've come on our show a couple, and it's one of our most popular shows is when you educated us on USB. Let's go back to that 10 years. You found USB. But it wasn't the MacBook.
No, it was actually so the first devices came out, and I was involved with with USB for the organization at the time. I was working for Cables to Go, part of Legrand. So I was also following the USB Implementers Forum and Emerging Technology, something that I continue to do today, even though I'm retired. So as I'm looking at it, what I see is this Type-C, and it dawns on me at the CES show, I think, where I first saw it, that wow, this thing really does everything I can imagine a small connector doing. And at the time, I was fascinated with the idea that every smartphone is a supercomputer in your pocket. Why are we carrying around a tablet and a PC and a smartphone? Can't we find a way to make these things all so I can have one device to access everything I need to access? And this came out, and I was really fascinated with it. So let's jump ahead. Mac introduces their MacBook, which is the first device to have it by agreement at the USB Implementers Forum. The second device is the Pixel Chromebook, their first generation Pixel Chromebook. So I bought that just so I could say I had Type-C and I had some experience with it. Now I'm going to tell you a story that sold me on Type-C right there, why it became so important to me individually. I was in the process of moving from Cincinnati, Ohio to the Tampa area. And I came down on Labor Day in 2016, I can't remember, it must have been 2016. Anyway, it was Hurricane Irma. I arrived to an empty house with a U-Haul. The only reason I had the U-Haul wasn't to bring anything that of my furniture. It's because the moving companies will not move open bottles of liquor or wine. And I have a pretty extensive bar and a wine collection. And I would not let them touch my LP collection.
What size of
I need
U-Haul was
context.
Because they make little ones. They make
Is it like the big guy, or were you like a little trailer? What are we talking?
It was big enough. It was a 16-footer, so big enough for my mattress and box spring, cases of wine.
You crammed your mattress in there, just enough room with your wine collection and your mattress. Okay, just make sure the context is correct.
So, did you actually like in the hotel on the drive, or just open up the hatch and get in?
Driving 10 mile an hour from Cincinnati to Florida.
So I show up. Bottom line is, I'm in the middle of a hurricane 2 days after I arrive here with no preparation, nothing in my house, no supplies.
You were prepared.
Whatsoever.
You had all your liquor.
But you were sweating. You were sweating the vinyl there in the rain and the wind. I know. I
was. I bought it all in the house. Everything was cool. We were safe. We worked well. We lost power for 6 days. So over those 6 days, what I found out about Type-C, and this is what kind of blew my mind, was I had a Type-C connector for my phone in the car, and it could charge my laptop. I didn't have to go looking for some power brick that had some goofy-ass barrel connector. I didn't have a generator. I didn't have an outlet. I had a car with a battery, and there was no place I was going to go that had electricity because there was a stinking hurricane in Florida, which means you're kind of screwed for, in my case, 6 days. I was able to charge my notebook in the car at night and to charge my cell phone and then hotspot during the day. Nobody at work. I was doing webinars. I was taking conference call meetings. I worked without power for those 6 days, and no one knew that I was working remotely from essentially a car battery. And I attribute that to the fact that I had one connector that allowed me to share charges between devices. Think about that for a second. That's revolutionary in the last 10 years. You never had that before in the history of our products. Cool, isn't it?
It's elegant.
Standardization.
It's very elegant.
Amazing.
Yes, it is. It's very elegant. So, now what happened with this, all right? So we take what is a very elegant idea that's going to incorporate all of these capabilities, and we do a couple things. First, we hand it to the open market, which means every company has to be better than every other company. So now we come to Sony JVC. I'm going to make VHS. I'm going to make Beta. All right, let's get into it, right? So now we've completely screwed the pooch when it comes to educating the customer base. Then what we do, we hand it over to the marketing people. And they start talking about, well, it's got this, it's got that. Well, not this one, it doesn't, not that. We failed to educate anybody about the commonality with this device. It truly is universal. And today, if you plug it in, yes, there are phones that don't have DP over alt mode. There aren't any PCs that I'm aware of that have a Type-C that don't have DP over alt mode. There might be. I don't know. It might be some inexpensive stuff. Tablets, kind of the middle ground. Mm-hmm. It's not that hard to say, if your device has this ability, it can do this. If you plug it in and you don't see it, it's because your device doesn't have that ability. Done.
Yep. I do like when I plug my laptop charger in my phone and my phone charges in 5 minutes from zero.
And it's hot. You're
it's probably really good on that battery. But man.
And it leaves a permanent charred impression on your desk of the phone cooking itself.
Yep. I love that about USB-C. I'm sure it's great on the phones. So
is there anything that within this realm that we see coming up that's even more exciting? Like, what adds to it? What improvements in the next year or two, whatever, that we can get excited about that might push us even further into the more accepted connector or standard?
So in looking at my crystal ball, if we're talking about USB Type-C, I think the most exciting thing that we can talk about right now is what we're talking about on this show at this moment. That is standardization. We've gotten past the point where some companies are doing it this way and some companies are doing it that way. I'm not sure because I don't have the Pixel 9 Pro, but I believe that Google finally started adding DP alt mode onto some of their phones. I might be wrong on that, but I heard something about maybe it's coming up on the Pixel 10. I'll find out. But we are seeing standardized capabilities across most of these devices, which means that we can start looking at how do we have standard implementation in classrooms, conference rooms, huddle spaces, or other places where people are going to be. I think it's very cool, too, that we now have the ability to provide, particularly in a university setting or a school setting or something like that, where we have a large amount of the populace, to provide standardized charging. Like, you don't need to have special chargers. You can put in wall outlets. that have Type C 30-watt chargers. And guess what? That's enough to get your shit going. Right? Better than nothing. And guys, how many times have you sat on the floor of the airport because that was the only duplex that you could find?
That's the story that I told people, architects. I tell them, like, imagine being stuck here, stuck at an airport. What utility do you need? That's what students need when they're waiting for classes. That's just like being stuck in an airport. They're all waiting for their flights to leave and arrive, and that's what's going on.
So along comes Cisco, and they make a brilliant idea. Cisco sits back, and this is actually one of their use cases. They came up with one of their PoE-powered switches designed at 90 watts. Specific use case was to charge USB Type-C devices, right? So that you could put in Type-C connectors that would give you Ethernet and power. And, unfortunately, that's not all you need. As you guys know, you need more than that, right? You need to have connection to local devices.
PoE charging?
Yeah. So there's a lot of cool stuff. And I think that what we're going to see this year is this standardization. The fact that everybody finally Apple decided to use this connector on all of their devices. So it's become at least that universal, right? And then now phase 2. What's going to happen in new products? Well, we're seeing 2 areas, I think, that are really exciting. And the first one is this is a desktop connection, right? We're talking about something that even under normal operation is 20 gigabits per second. This is de rigueur. This is like the lowest level. You don't have crap behind your walls that's doing 20 gigs. That's just, unless you're running fiber to something, that's just not a LAN, right? So we're dealing with very, very high speeds. What we're going to see is a proliferation of extended solutions that allows us to get out to at least 10 meters or more. Most of these solutions will be hybrid solutions where we're using a combination of copper and fiber to make this thing work over a distance. But that's neither here nor there, the fact that it works over distance. Once you have it working over distance, I think then the next product that we see, and once again, I think we'll see some of this year, is going to be the introduction of true USB Type-C matrix switching that might have 6, 8, 10 inputs and allow you to share peripherals. It's recombinant innovation. The technology exists. Now it's a matter of the programmable gate arrays and writing the firmware and putting it in a box and surviving all of that with the tariffs that we're going to deal with.
Really interesting to see how that plays out, to see what colleges and universities start buying that 8x8 USB-C matrix switcher.
Yeah, USB-C matrix switcher makes me feel weird. I'm not.
I got to see that thing work and put it through its test.
I feel like it's one of those, why not? And then, oh, Jesus.
And you're like,
Jamie, just because we can doesn't mean we should.
It means we're gonna.
Like,
why not? I'm in. Do it.
But 8x8, I get it. But in the reality, if you had a solid, dependable, 4-input device that could then go into, right? So you could put it at a couple of different podiums or teaching stations, and that's the only places that you needed to plug it in, and it gave you 60 watts or less of power. You don't need a special cable. It gave you up to 4K video. Now you do need a special cable, right? You need a cable that's going to have an E marker. So you got to make sure that you're providing either a whip or a cable. You can't let somebody walk in with their charging cable because it won't do video. Once again, this is an education thing. But if you could have a solution that would plug into each podium in a teaching space and perhaps a couple of seated areas in a teaching space, that 4x1 or 4x2, is that useful? Does that answer a lot of what you need?
If really, in most teaching spaces, I really would just need, if I was to dive off that really tall diving board, just a 2x1 USB switch would suffice, I think.
That covers all of the things, the charging, the video, the intake, the output part of it.
Like, because you got usually one dedicated computer and maybe a BYOD spigot, maybe not. Maybe you're going to go the Mark way and do Zoom and Teams, wireless. Not, there's options. But I don't know. I'm going to do a 16x16 USB switcher for my whole building.
There's part of me that feels like,
do it.
Like, no.
Justin, you need to save 3 of those lanes to connect to the next one so you can stack the matrix switchers like in the old days.
Through floors and everything's connected so I can send my video and audio from floor 1 to floor 3.
Is there a chance that USB-C is really just like the holding pattern? And is it the challenge to get everybody to start playing by the same kind of profiles, and that is it like a momentary thing? Like, yes, the charging seems to be like this preeminent use case, but is it kind of just holding and waiting for the next generation of network to proliferate, where wireless becomes more ubiquitous and like all that same capability is there? Because as that bandwidth increases and kind of that saturation's there, is this more of an exercise in kind of how do we ideologically get everybody to start playing by standards so that we actually don't need this spigot moving forward? I'm okay if you say I'm crazy as shit. I'm totally fine with that.
I hear what you're saying. I don't think that we're going to see any network changes, right? I mean, honestly, we can do all of this right now. We can do almost everything we would need to do with some combination of IPMX, NDI, SMPTE 2110, whatever. That can go over wireless. It can go over wired. We can easily get wireless in excess of a gig with Wi-Fi 7. Wi-Fi 8 is probably going to be ratified next year, right? I don't see big changes on that because that's got a big lagging indicator. But when we start looking at it, what wireless doesn't do is it doesn't let you charge any of your devices.
Not
so if you're
yet.
going to charge them,
Just need more powerful wireless, Joe. It'll be fine.
Joe's rolling his eyes like, oh my God.
Or is that like the surface charging and then you just have everything else networks? You put your thing down and your desktop itself is charging off of the desk that it's sitting on, then all the other services are just there over wireless. I mean, I'm being like a big naysayer here, I understand, but there's part of me that like believes that application level delivery is going to put an end to the whole like spigot and tubes and wired Ethernet kind of based AV transport altogether. It's a ways out, but to me, I feel like we're going through stages and gates, and USB-C feels like a stage and a gate to me.
I imagine it would be insofar as composite RCA was a stage, HDMI is a stage. It'll give way to. I mean, it's I think these are 50-year systems. So no, I don't think Type C is going anywhere. I think that Type C is a connector that is part of the universal serial bus, which is in fact absolutely a universal device. My bicycle helmet charges by Type C. I set up a home lab. My home lab, I have a Type C power supply so that I can do experiments with it, right? So that's all it is a power supply. Type C is universal in so many ways. I think it's going to be with us for a long time. And I think it's going to really capture, and I think it already has captured, the residential market in that way, in that everything you own is Type C. Your car has a Type C input. Every outlet in my kitchen, my bathrooms, my guest rooms have Type C chargers built into the outlets.
And it's only taken us like 10 years to get that far, though. So
yeah, that's groovy. I mean, so
Another
it
10
took
years
us
to go before we get standardization.
Yeah, it took us less time to get from zero to here than it did from us to get from candle power to electricity. So
that's true.
Right?
Just barely, like close.
Or how long did it take for us to go from black and white television to color? That was 10 years. 1942 to 1953. So that was 11 years just to get color. Just so I could see a stinking peacock.
That's right. Oh man.
Well, let's put a pin in it there. So, Joe, I love your insight as always. Stick around for our next thing where you can tell us why our audio is terrible. But so, Mark, you heard it there from Joe. USB-C is not going anywhere to replace with your weird wireless cloud systems you're trying to build over there. So cool it. Go to USB.
Go back.
That's your solution.
All right.
Yeah. Go chill out, Mark.
I'm not saying go back. You didn't even deploy it to start with. You got to do that.
It's rolling. Anyway, it's fascinating. I love it.
All right. Somebody figure out how to run the next commercial, which I don't know what it is, and because I can't see any of this stuff.
Do you find yourself trying to connect to all your audio devices, only to find out they speak different languages? Introducing the Audio Bridge AMA widget by Independent Amalgamated, the ultimate all-in-one adapter that makes compatibility issues a thing of the past. Picture this. You've got a Dante microphone array, balanced analog inputs on your DSP, and embedded PCM audio via USB to a laptop. What's a savvy technician to do? With the Audio Bridge AMA widget by Independent Amalgamated, you can bridge the gap between any audio protocol, bit rate, source, or destination. It's like the United Nations of audio adapters. And guess what? For a limited time, we're throwing in every adapter you could ever need. That's right, every single one. Need to convert from RCA to SCART? No problem. Want to go from USB to XLR? Unbalanced to balanced and back again? Easy peasy. The possibilities are endless. But wait, there's more. Order now and we'll even throw in a lifetime supply of tangled cables. Say goodbye to that old frustrating knot of cords forever with a brand new mass of twisted, intertwined, and ratty cables. Don't let compatibility issues ruin your groove. Get your hands on the Audio Bridge widget today and let the music play on.
Now with USB-C,
It's like every
it actually
adapter.
comes to USB-C. It just announced at NAB. Did you guys see the announcement?
The newest
for
adapter
Virgin
with a
Widget,
USB-C on it.
USB-C.
And back.
All right. So for our final segment here, we're going to spend a few minutes beating ourselves up here. But we initially wanted to talk about the reason why this is important. And there's an article out there which, well, I'm trying to trace where this started. It was a LinkedIn post, which linked to an NPR story, which then linked to a research journal and
for advertisement.
Yes.
So who are we giving credit to?
Everybody.
On this? Like
I think
all
this
of them?
goes. I think this goes to Princeton University for doing the research on audio quality, in particular on meetings, makes you sound more authoritative, even if you're not, which is awesome. But we're demonstrating that today with poor audio quality. So don't listen
This
to
has been
anything we've
adequate.
said. You can discount it
Not
all.
poor, adequate. Yes.
It hasn't been terrible.
Adequacy level 2.
This is a ringing endorsement, Justin.
So, but,
Okay.
so what was the actual takeaway of this whole study again?
So the study was based, and just the short version is the study said with different people, and they put people on basically like a Zoom call, and they listened to the quality of what was being presented, and by default, people assumed if you had better quality audio on a call, you were more authoritative, you were more you were more truthful, your information resonated more than somebody who had poor audio quality. And so the drive is, so when you're on calls, when you're on meetings, make sure you sound and hopefully look as good as you can. The focus for a lot of what we did, especially with COVID and all that fun stuff, was cameras and the virtual backgrounds and the visual processing to make yourself look smoother and all that stuff, to remove all your well-worn wrinkles and all that fun stuff. But people ignored audio, and they would just use the audio coming off their laptop, and it sounds like audio coming off your laptop, which is, yes, I can communicate with you, I can hear you, but is that really the are we putting our best foot forward on this, I guess?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting when I read, because they kind of changed the perspective as you went through each of the steps. And it started with interviews, and then it turned into sales and sales calls, and said, like, look, if you're doing an interview and you're trying to, impress somebody, that's what you're trying to do, impress them and get a good impression and get a job or a sale, that this shit matters. And I think I linked it immediately because we talk about it a lot on our show planning meetings and things. It's like, it just drives me absolutely bonkers to have somebody from a company that sells audio and they're on the worst damned microphone on the planet. Or they're telling me that I need to buy their codec du jour this week and their AEC is all jacked up. Or I sell cameras and I have the worst camera on the planet. I'm like, why are you talking to me? Your company sells this shit. Impress me. And when I go on to even internal meetings, not just our show here, but when I go on internal meetings, like, I strive to make sure that I sound the best on there and I have a better quality camera when I can. Sometimes we travel and I get it. Sometimes you're mobile and you just have to do what you can, but I want people to take me seriously because, as we talked about on the show, suitcase syndrome, right? The consultant always gets the benefit of the doubt. Well, this is my kind of the only leg up you can have is like, well, look at me. The consultant looks like trash over here, but I'm telling you internally and looking good. Well, okay. The best is this ugly
You're
mug can
really
bring.
pushing it right now, Jim.
But I'm sad. I hear it. They sound like a radio guy. Well, not really, but thanks. But I think it's important. And it was interesting to see that this came out of other studies from other industries, not just AV, and kind of backed up that thought. And
well, it's common sense, Jamie. I mean, like, I was just thinking about, if you're looking to get your landscaping done, right? Just something very basic that usually some people do, right, with their houses.
Do you want a good sounding
landscape?
landscape?
To the landscaping business,
weed whacker.
And there's like trash cans out front, and there's no
concrete.
landscaping. It's all concrete.
It's all concrete.
You're like, what the hell is that? Like, are you going to hire them? Or are you going to be like, this was kind of weird. Maybe we should go down the street where they actually have plants, right? So if you're in the AV industry, you might want to think about good video quality and good audio quality if you're doing podcast or if you're just meeting with people. Probably important if your company specializes in that.
And it's a real easy step to go into our everyday operations of we're supporting classes.
It doesn't cost a lot either. It's not expensive.
No, and we want the instructor, we want the presenter to be in a position where they are authoritative, right? I am an authority of my knowledge base, whatever that is. And this is just one little thing that perception can fix. And I don't think we don't put enough stock in that sometimes when we put these out. We put out what we have as cheap as possible, but not taking into account that we want this to be good, adequacy or better.
And I don't know if it's authoritative more than just getting respect, right?
Holy moly.
There's Larry. So Larry's watching, but not part of what we're doing. Do we need to?
Larry had a conflict. So Larry comments, the AV guy always needs to look and sound the best.
Larry had some family things today.
Always, but
well, we'll have a discussion.
Jamie,
with
to your point
later.
about classrooms, I was in one the other day, and they were doing an open forum, and they had somebody come in and talking about things, and that person did the traditional, can everybody hear me? And they didn't use a mic in the room. Now, we had mics in the ceiling to pick them up, so they were on Zoom, and everyone online could hear them. It was fine. You could hear them, but it didn't sound great because they opted to not use a microphone in the room, which, and arguably in a room full of 40 people, you didn't necessarily need to. The volume was there, but had they worn a mic or held a mic, they would have sounded that much more authoritative. Their message would not have changed. The information they were imparting would not have changed, but the way it was being conveyed, I think just psychologically, that person's in charge. They're holding the mic. They're talking to me. I can hear everything they're saying. I hear every little bit.
Professionalism. It makes it's a different level of professionalism. In this modern day, it's just the new version of professionalism. What you say, how you look in the immediate, and also wherever that can be heard around the world is important, and be mindful of that.
Not so much how you look for some of us.
It's all about your look, Justin. But you're the one who gets things decorated behind them changing throughout the year. You want your online presence to look good.
That's
look at him
not
now.
Me. That's my interior decorator that I'm married. But also,
she wants you to look good.
She's trying really hard to make me look good, and I'm failing because I haven't got a haircut in 3 months. And this weave is
gave you one last
year. AI faster than you can blink and get you more haircuts.
So yeah, we're working on things over here.
Well,
we all try.
Again, apologies for the quality of today's show. Hopefully, do not take this as indicative of our general
it was good enough
production. So
it was good enough, Chris.
Yeah. All right, fine. I'm just ticked because all my other stuff didn't work.
You just pressing all the buttons and jamming.
Joe, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
Wait, hold on. Who's roll? I'm not pushing the buttons here. Someone stop that one. You have to stop it.
We're already going.
Yeah, someone's got to hit stop. Or there you go. Joe, tell us about this class you're teaching at InfoComm one more time. Let's get that out there and how people can get in touch with you and all that fun stuff.
Okay, if you're going to the InfoComm 25 in Orlando this year, it's going to be a 3-day course, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. First advanced 3-day course, I believe, that Avixa has offered at the show. It's called Emerging Technologies in AV, and we are going to be really looking at not just technologies that are new that we haven't seen, but technologies that are actually in use in AV adjacent spaces that should be in our palette of colors that we can paint with, that many of us, frankly, are unaware.
So do you have a teaser? What's a teaser thing there?
Yeah, sure. Fault managed power systems and the ability for us to now do 2 kilowatts over 18 gauge twisted pair or 20 or 16 gauge twisted pair.
Yeah, give me some
in
of
a
that
low
shit.
voltage environment. Yeah, absolutely.
How
about Wi-Fi Halo? Been around for the last 5 years. Gives us the ability to do 100 megabits per second at kilometer distances over Wi-Fi with all the security you expect with Wi-Fi. These are just a few other things. And of course, I'll be there with Jose Mazzotta, and he will be getting deeply into some of the things that are happening in streaming, in codecs, and the way that we see our transporting material. So we are really looking at everything from ingest to transport to how it's going to be manipulated by artificial intelligence. If it's new and it's interesting, we'll be talking about it in June.
I'll be
If
there,
it's
but
new and if
We'll
it's
bring
interesting.
you back on the show. That's what's going to happen.
I wish I could take your class, Joe.
Justin, just go next door from your class. Go over to that one.
I might just
Everybody,
sneak
today
out.
we're going to take a break and we're going to go over to Joe's
trip.
class.
Come on in. Absolutely.
All right. Well, okay. Now we can roll out. This is weird. Me
Now
not
it's
doing
all
this.
just
This is very
weird.
strange.
It's the interns, all the interns.
Production,
Chris
the
has
floor
lost
manager
control.
on this, the floor director is getting a little
I
out
am
of line
not
on
comfortable with this lack of control. It's bothering me. So
I can tell. You're really
makes me
driving
upset.
this.
So,
See you all next week.
all right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV SuperFriends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV SuperFriends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.